Okay, looks like we are set up and ready to go. I'm just going to pull up some reference here on the other side. What's it going to be tonight? I've been thinking about painting rocks. But you know what? Who knows? Who knows what we'll do? I think we'll just start sketching around and then we'll go from there. But let me just pull something up on this other on the other monitor, just so that I've got something to throw some inspiration at me. I'll show you. We got some weird shaped rocks. All about weird rocks. Never grows old. So that's that. So if we need to, we'll start painting some weird rocks. Okay, so let me get set up with, we'll do a new layer, do our fill. Oh, that got rid, that's annoying. Our fill got rid of our empty layer. I suppose it's, in the long term, many empty layers have been saved by that feature, but don't know if I like it today. Alright. So we're just going to go with some shapes. Whether or not I want to outline these and then fill them, I'm not quite sure yet. I think I will switch to a different brush here because much as I like this brush, I need some thick and thin on this particular task. How about natural drag? It might work a little better. The dragon brush would be a good one for this, actually. Lame name for a brush, but I named it that because it was just fun to draw dragons with it. Let's see. This one here. See? Wouldn't that be fun to draw some dragons with that? We've already been down that road, so for tonight we will just use it to get quick, thick and thin. So the way that it works is it kind of goes with your the curve and your velocity, and it makes the brush kind of get thicker as you round the corner of a stroke. Now it's not quite as clean and crisp as I was thinking that I would want for these, but we'll take it. I think the chaos is probably good for me. Sends me in a different direction than I might otherwise go. Helps you stay out of those ruts. Let's see if we can enclose these shapes in a relatively neat way. Clean them up just a little bit. Clean seems like the wrong word. Not really making that edge any smoother or tighter, but what I mean is I'm trying to simplify this. Okay, I'm going to switch brushes again so that I can fill those in easily. How about the twist drag? That might be the happy medium between smooth and thick and thin. All right, so what we're doing here is we're just starting to lay out some thumbnails, which we will then use either as a launching point for composition, or we'll just move on to something else. But what I'm looking for in these is a thick and thin shape language, and then we're going to go to black and bring in the third tone, since we've got white and gray here already. Nah, we'll keep that. I was thinking about putting in the border, of the edge of the canvas or whatever, but I don't think we're quite committed to that on any of these. All right, we'll come in with the black here. So, looking at some of these shapes and thinking, what else would be going on here? And again, I should be careful with these that they don't become too sketchy, that I continue to think of them as shapes as well, and not necessarily as, scratchy lines. I feel like every time I say what I'm concerned about, I catch myself doing that exact thing, like as I'm saying it. Strange. So I'm catching myself compositionally doing something very similar, like kind of a tower type shape in the center. With I'm kind of seeing these as maybe clouds or something behind. And the clouds would be more of a framing element. Lead the eye into the dark area as a focal point. I think I like this, but I just want to get rid of that one bit there. Alright, this one here. This one's kind of interesting. It has a different feel to it. Everything feels a little bit more diagonal on this one, I think. Okay. giving this a little bit more room to breathe here. I'll have a look at these and think, what do we see in them? So I'm going to just start trimming these out. That one feels really heavy to that one side. Alright, so then if we take our background color, and we'll change that up. Okay, now we take our images and just move them around to our heart's content so they've got some space. Maybe group them conceptually. All right. Oh, there we go. We said this one was heavy on that one side, so I need to see about balancing that up. I like the idea of it having that diagonal, you know, just kind of moving up and to the right. But we need to balance that out with something on this side, and that just could be more detail density. Doesn't necessarily need to be, you know, we don't need to put a big block of black there. Although, you know, throwing something in here, you know, all of a sudden there's more weight there. But we shall decide the best way to do that. Okay. This one I like conceptually. I like this idea that there's like maybe this storm here. I've got to make a new layer and pin that to it. But you get the storm cloud just massive in the background. And we'll have it casting a this large soft shadow onto like a town below, right? So we'll start to work that in. Don't want to go too heavy because we're showing how far away all of that is. But we do want it darker. Let's see if we put in like a rim here. And by rim, I mean establish the horizon. Like there's a background light there. And that could give us something to bounce off of. So if we made all this light up here. And then maybe change this overall into a different shape, different value rather, to hold that shape. Do we want to take that all the way up? Yeah, I don't know about that. We'll see. We shall see. This is probably the point where we get some reference. This is the point where someone smarter than me would get reference. I'll put it that way. Okay. Reestablish these. And then in the background, we got the I guess we'll go basically black with that. Dark gray, get that all in there. Is this? Okay, well that's quite different than that. Though, I'm kind of curious how we might utilize this, maintain that. That structure. Maybe. And then I think we should probably flatten some of these out a bit here, being as they are off in the distance on the horizon. Should we go lighter with this? That's what we did on the last iteration. I feel like we need to have some of this white down here. Get that kind of yin and yang thing. Maybe not quite to the same degree of brightness. And then I think we need to flatten it out. Make it more like a slice, you know. Slice of light. I think at some point we get obsessed with that. Just like a single line that describes that floor plane. Okay, so version 1 and 2. We'll save them both. Why not? We do what we want. You go over here. That's pretty busy. I would want to simplify that one if I end up going there. All right, this one. I don't know that we need to give them all the same time of day here. They don't all have the same merits. But this is still the exploration phase where we're just trying things out. Because we can. I like this brush. It has a nice, almost kind of a calligraphy quality to it. It's not too difficult to pull off in terms of Photoshop brushes, but there's a certain flow and elegance, I guess, might be the right word. Not sure. That you seem to get from a calligraphy brush or calligraphy style. I'm going to flatten these out a little bit here as they're going into the background. Make those less diagonal. I do want some diagonals in there, but very subtle as we go farther and farther back. And this, though I'm not excited to do it, I have this sense that it being like this night, it's like kind of like this night scene. I see it as kind of like a night scene in space or something, you know? And so it needs, I think, more objects in shadow to establish the lighting. Now, of course, we could do that if we were to select this one as the candidate for going large. But I've got the idea now, so I'm going to play with it now. All right, next one. We'll do like a reflection here. Oh, what layer am I on? Same one, I guess. I'll just crop that again. We actually might go a little tighter. Here we go. All right. So we'll do a reflection here, which means we'll push that down. Maybe catch just a little bit of that. I will tighten this shape up a little bit. I want this as a, maybe like a castle or something in the background. But it's just too much too many large forms. I mean, we want to simplify it, right? Keep it simple with the larger brush. But I think for what we're going for there, pushing that all the way back, we want to show that this is like very far back. And then these forms here, I think I will kind of point them in to the castle. And maybe the top of this will have that point straight over. So then if you're to follow those lines, you'll see this takes us into the base, that takes us in, this one takes us to about the top of it. So that's what I'm playing with there. We might even slope them to see if we can kind of get them to curve back up towards it. Let's do this as I'm not sure what I want to do there. So I might want to bring the eye in towards that. Okay, move on to another one. I have no idea. I don't see anything in this one. When I was first doing this, I thought it lent itself to these nice diagonal shapes and maybe like these little kind of hook shapes. But I don't know. I don't know what you saw in this one, Eric. But we're rolling with it. We're gonna roll with it. Okay. So, for this background, I'm seeing the white shapes as being the stable shape, right? They're more rounded. They are kind of coming across the scene horizontally. I might even make them more, just larger, so they feel more stable. So instead of bump, 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 maybe we'll do like, well, that's diagonal. We'll go like that. I'm not sure if I like that anymore than what I had before. Maybe. Sometimes the theory is nonsense, but no, let's trust it. Let's trust it. We'll go. Stable, horizontal with these. I do want that thick and thin, though. So there's going to be some diagonal as we need to come in and thin those shapes out. But I think generally speaking, like these right here, I'm going to make those more soft, rounded. And then we can work on these diagonals that cut into it. Messing everything up. What if we just do a reversal here where the sky turns white and then our clouds are the gray in the background. Then we need these to have that same quality to them. Then of course you gotta ask, well, what is this image about? Clouds and diagonals and what kind of nonsense is that? Put in one little vertical guy there. It's the only thing going on that's not like the rest of it. Okay. Nah. Don't like that. Let's do... Not even really sure why I'm putting a cloud here in the foreground, but I am. Guess we're all just gonna have to deal with it. I wonder if I could just make the whole thing darker, then play off of that. What's the term? Counter change. We could maybe put a rim on it, you know, to be all fancy. Oh, okay, I feel like I'm spending entirely too much time on these. But I'm having fun. So, it's gotta count for something, I guess. Nope. Hmm. Okay. Alright, we got in the chat Elijah. Yes, Sky. I like Sky. I don't know what the deal is. There's something calming and awe-inspiring all in the same breath about just clouds, stars, just the space, right? I think I like that shape for the most part. I want to see how we can perhaps integrate it into this cloud, so like the cloud is enveloping it. Mountaintopy shapes there. Technical term, mountaintopy. And then you got the moisture that comes off the mountain as the air comes through, hits the top of the mountain, cools off. Okay, the one thing with this though, I always say the one thing, there's always like 20 things, but the thing that I am seeing right now is that it's really easy to get into this trap of just like repeating like do, 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 you know. And so you do want some rhythm, generally speaking, like you want things to look like they're associated. However, it's so easy to just get caught into this like pattern and create the same thing over and over and over and not think about how to add some variety and make it interesting, you know. There's something to be said about like it's rhythm and flow. You know, rhythm is not just pure repetition. It's the relationship between things, how they correspond to each other. And so, if I'm simply making this repetition, then I'm missing the opportunity to have it harmonize, if that makes sense. Have things be different but complementary. Let's bring this down here. And then get rid of that one. Alright, this foreground stuff could use some help. So this is our area of attention right there, right? So we want to start to draw everything into it. And that means like this here. I'm going to lead the eye over there. And then maybe we'll have it pick up from like over here and zigzag over. Ziggity zag. Maybe we won't go quite as dark with that part because we want it to not be the focal point, right? Maybe darken some of these lights down here and put them into that mid category so that our, you know, what might be perceived as snow in this range here, we'll have it fade to being the mid-tone once we get to the foreground. wonder if we can sweep that up a little bit there. And if we can get this maybe to curve back down into the area of interest there. Okay, we do it again here. We're gonna go up there, kind of echo that other shape there. Fade it out a bit there. Let's go with our mid-tone and we'll clean this up a little bit here. Again, I don't want too much contrast there. I do want to layer a little bit to show, you know, that we've got some distance to cover. But I also want to be careful that I'm not making that too contrasty. So I'm going to take my mid-tone and just gonna come between these two so that the lights go down and the darks go up. Okay, I'm playing too much with that one. There's at least two more that I haven't touched yet. What are we gonna do here? That I might just. Well, here, let's do a new layer. like that with the almost flowing. Flowing lines there. Okay. And the last one. I think it's the last one. Don't really like this shape right here. So we're gonna get rid of that. And I think what we need to do is balance this out. I'm going to do a new layer to do this by maybe bringing in a whole bunch of white here. And then we'll do like a corresponding like city type or installation type form language over here. Might make that smaller. Okay. Now what? We look at these for their merits, I suppose. It looks like a aftermath of a battle or something. You know, smoke blowing over. This one looks more like a maybe strange weather on a alien planet. This one's got that Midwest look to it. This one, again, maybe that whole sci-fi city or something. That seems to look like a character. Maybe we'll do something with that, excuse me, or get rid of it. This one, I get either medieval or sci-fi kind of, you know, some kind of fantasy thing here. I like this one for its graphic quality. This one, you know, same as the other one, the Midwest, but just different stylization, I guess. A few different choices. This one here, I like the idea of this city being, you know, some kind of city or tower or structure being enveloped by this cloud that's kind of rolling in. That would, excuse me. I think that would need more, you know, in terms of like, what is this thing? We'd have to kind of develop the idea and the story there, and that's really true of any of these. This, you know, you get the shape language, and then you get the little character type thing there, and I don't know. I think if this was like lava, and you know, you're traveling, you get that little Mordor kind of sense there. This one's a little more tranquil, and I think of this almost like a castle on the lock, you know, and then you've got maybe a little port right there. Little fighter jets coming through on like some kind of Hoth-like planet on that one. So I think there's some, you know, all different directions we could take these. What I'm feeling tonight? That's a great question. It is 11:30-ish. Already yawning. But gotta go a little farther than thumbnails, don't we? Well, this one was kind of fun to work with. This I could see turning into something, though I see a few compositional issues with it, which, you know, it's usually not a bad place to start. Like if you see something that you know you can fix, maybe just fix that and see what happens. So let's do that. I'll go with this one. A new layer. Okay, whether or not this thing is a character or not, we might need to figure out. And then we'll think about the kind of lighting that we have. So we got this harsh white light there, which would imply, excuse me, there's a light coming from that, you know, that left side, and casting hard shadows. That would be, you know, long shadows. Like, I wouldn't go like that. Like there. So we could cast these, you know, exceptionally long shadows here. That might be kind of fun. Have that one pass right through the subject's head, and we'll see whether that tangent ends up being problem, or whether that's gonna lead the eye where we want it to go. One thing to think about with any of these things with characters, multiple characters, it's real easy to make a group of cultists that are all just kind of standing in robes, right? So we add a little chaos to it and see what emerges as a kind of interaction between characters, rather than just like a bunch of figures standing up. So like, for example, here I could see maybe this is an object like a basket or something, and then you turn this into somebody is either carrying this object, or maybe they're working on something here. He's picking up a box. And if he's picking up a box, why don't we just put another character here that's reaching down into it. Maybe they're supplying something, so there's a couple characters walking away with materials. Tighten that leg up a little bit because I don't know, you spread him out too much, makes him look like he's running, which it's tempting to do, to have this like epic pose or whatever, but to have them just like melancholy, mundane, they're just like moving stuff around. I don't know. Maybe I'm a sucker for the not very special moments, just every day. What do they call that? The sublime. It's like the nothing's going on kind of thing. Okay. Anyway. Maybe I'm too much of caveman and don't understand the concept. I think this is where Jawas came from. Just all this like robed creatures and stuff. I do think it's important to have interaction between things. You know, you could just have a little dude there or a group of people, right? But, you know, like this, like reaching down, he's got this box. Here, I'm really only implying it, but like, you know, having their limbs together shows they're, you know, they're talking, they got a hand on their shoulder, or there's some kind of thing going on here that's where they relate to each other. It's not just that they're all just standing around waiting to have their picture taken. Excuse me. I think it'd be kind of fun to have a layer here where you see this other like city back here, or rather maybe a cloud layer or something. And the silhouette of the city is seen through it. You know, so I guess we could just go the lasso tool and grab some shapes here. Maybe cut out a few shapes. Oh, I did that on the same layer. That's fine. Alright, so I'll just mask that out and invert it. Okay, then we can play with that mask a bit. All right, and then on this layer we can maybe bring in structures that are more in the foreground. Not foreground, midground. What is this man talking about? He speaks utter nonsense. It's funny because I don't like it. So we'll shrink it down. Maybe we'll erase some of it. Alright. New layer. I'm just going to sample all layers of this one. And I'm just going to kind of work a bunch of this together. Well, it looks like we're having some issues with this stream for some reason. I may need to reboot it. That's no good. Hmm. To figure out what's going on there. Keep an eye on that, and if that's continues to be an issue, then I'll have to see if I can restart the stream. Not good, not good. Alright, let me address the streaming software and we'll see if we can fix this. It looked like everything cut off around a little over an hour ago. Well, not quite an hour, maybe half an hour ago. Alright, I'm going to stop and then start it again. Okay, now I need to check on the stream health. Something happened there and it was not working. I'm going to mute my mic for just a second and then see if we're back. Okay, it looks like we're back. My apologies for that. I didn't realize the stream was having issues. But let me know if there are any more issues we need to address with that. It looks like we're back up and running. Alright, so this will be perhaps an interesting opportunity here for this cloud to be in shadow and then fade into light. And I guess that would happen before it hits the ground. It gets a little bit higher up. I don't know. just clean these up and simplify them, or start to kind of fade them into each other. You know, have this gray blend into that black. Smudge tool is pretty destructive for this kind of job, so it might actually make more sense to use just a brush, you know, work it in. I guess we can do the thing that makes sense. Just this once. Just checking out the chat real quick. Hello, Eric. How are you? Nice work. Thank you. I'm doing all right. I haven't been able to find YouTube streams very easily. If there's a section that has all the art streamers in one place that we can scroll through. I have no idea. You know, honestly, I have never really been into any kind of like YouTube community, if that makes sense. You know, I've just kind of been, you know, painting just for my own practice. And as far as connecting with others and kind of understanding how it works in the YouTube space, I wish I knew. I wish I could help you with that, but you know, honestly, it's just not. I don't really see it either. You know, if it's there, you know, I'm assuming there are some. You know, some people will send me links, and you know, to artists that they follow or streams that they like to watch. No, it hasn't been something that I understand where it all could aggregate, you know, if there is such a place. That would be cool, though. You know, maybe ArtStation will pick up on that someday. Or maybe it'll be the thing that replaces ArtStation. Maybe if you build it, it will come. Okay, I don't like what happened there. I want to keep these shapes. What do I want to do with these shapes? I just don't want them to get too detailed. I want to keep it fairly abstract. Yeah, I don't know. I made these, you know, real puffy and simple at first, and now I've gone and ruined them. By trying to make them be something. They became nothing. Hmm. This here could use a counter change there where it turns into the darker color. And then I think we could maybe flatten that out. And some of these ones back here, they're, you know, by comparison, they're just too large. All right, sorry, back to the chat. You would think a site like YouTube would make the whole part of their product more easily accessible. It's bizarre. Yeah, you would think so. I mean, that's a whole can of worms, that conversation about the algorithm. You know, it gives you stuff that it thinks you'll like, and to some degree that could be there could be a lot of good in that, like if that truly worked for like artists, where you're discovering new artists, and you're you know, finding new content and new learning channels and stuff. Like, that would be awesome. To some degree, that's, you know, that happens. I think mostly when I study something new, I get kind of obsessive about, like, you know, learning a new tool or something, and you know, I think YouTube, the algorithm picks up on the fact that you're just like geeking out on something. So I mean, they're doing something. You know, it's not like it's completely a lost cause, but at the same time, you get stuck in these ruts of what the algorithm thinks you want, because it, you know, for one day you were checking it out, and so anyway, yeah, it would be nice if there was more of a community aspect to it, and you know, I think that's kind of true of like any of these things. That there is a community that develops around any kind of website or social media place, and I think it's like it's the new place to like hang out, or there's like an innovative way of experiencing that and interacting with each other. I think you see it with, like, well, I mean, all the way back to like MySpace and then Facebook and all that. Like, it was like people moved from one to the other because it was a new and interesting way to interact, and then you know, that shifted, and each platform kind of ended up having its own niche and flavor. You get Instagram and Twitter and Twitch and the whole 9 yards. You could just keep going and going. But I think there's part of it is, I know I've mentioned this kind of theory before, and sorry if I'm like going off on a rabbit trail here, but in terms of marketing on those platforms and building communities on those platforms, I think a lot of it comes down to, well, really just that businesses figure out, oh, this is where people are hanging out, and then that's when the community, whoever created it, developed it, can start to monetize it and cash in on their idea and all the people that they've brought together, and businesses will advertise, and then Coca-Cola and your parents and grandma are on the network, and then it's just not really the place to hang out anymore. You find somewhere else, and then the cycle repeats. It's like it's the thing that everyone's using, so that's where people start to congregate. It's like the new town square or something, and then your businesses and your snake oil salesmen, they all show up, and everyone migrates somewhere else. So I mean, to some degree, I think that has given me there's partly a healthy attitude and partly an unhealthy attitude around that. Just being too tired to like follow the trend and figure out where we are right now. I just don't even care. Or should I, just enjoy the fact that things will be different and they'll move, and just understand that that's part of the way it works. Depends on the day. Checking out the chat again. I recently watched one of your videos and commented on how I liked your tanks in the midjourney video, and was asking about what prompts you used. Yeah, midjourney. That's an interesting one. So I've been experimenting with a couple different ideas for midjourney. Really, I'm trying to figure out, how would I utilize this as a tool, and part of that, I guess, is, do I even want to? And I think generally speaking, it's been useful. So as far as the prompts for the tank, it's interesting because I'm trying to balance, like, okay, am I looking for something literal? Am I looking for this thing to render an object for me? Or am I looking for this thing to explore ideas, present things to me that I would not have considered? I think I lean more towards that. Like, I want to leave it... well, actually, that's hard to say. I want to leave it abstract enough that I get something a little bit unexpected. Because if it's absolutely what's expected, then I'm just asking it to render for me, which I guess, could be a time saver to a degree, or to compose for you, whatever. But, number one, I don't think it's actually really that capable, and I have used the latest version of it, so I'm aware of the more photoreal rendering that it's capable of, but I don't think that it really gives you what you're thinking. Okay, anyway, that's a whole other thing. So as far as the tanks, there's a couple veins that I go down with those. So one is I've got pre-existing ideas that I've already explored, and I just want to see what would come back, what comes back from this system if I give those same kind of prompts, even visual, sketches and paintings that I've already done, and just see where does it go with that. And that's been interesting. I'll say some of the results were enjoyable, right? So it's like, okay, I already made this tank, but here's another take on it that I also enjoy, and could do something with. So that's one avenue, is to kind of rehash old ideas. The other avenue that I've been playing with it is to see if I can art direct it, control it to go somewhere. And so there's been a couple things that I've tested with that. Part of that is the prompting that you mentioned. So I'm not trying to avoid the answer. It's perhaps more complicated than just the terms that you use. So anyway, the prompts that I will use for that often will include painted by so and so, and so knowing a little bit of art history, having a board. I have a board that I set up that's I had done this class with Marshall Vandruff, and part of the exercise was to do what he called your art parents, and that's who are the artists whose works have inspired you, and you want to emulate something that they're doing, and the exercise was to pick people that were I think pre-1900s. The idea being that time has proven their worth. It's not just what's hot right now, Okay, so anyway, I had already done up that board, and when I started using Midjourney, I just pulled that board up. In fact, I'll pull it up right now and show you. While I'm doing that, I'm also going to check the chat and get updated on what you're saying here. I've been designing for over 16 years, just testing out as a tool for my workflow. Definitely not a replace any part of my work. I think embracing technology as it is intersects with my industry is the best way to move forward, but making sure we stay true to the fundamentals that makes us great at our respective professions at the same time. Yeah, absolutely. So there's there's a couple ways of thinking about it. As a tool, as an explorative thing. I like it as a analytical tool, just to throw in some prompts, see what it comes back with, and try to understand why it would do that. And I think a lot of times you can kind of see a logical flow in it, though it does have its own fingerprints. As far as you can kind of tell that it has a bias towards certain things. So anyway, this is a board that I put together. So I put them in chronological order. So at the bottom here, we have Rembrandt, and I could go back farther, but we'll left it there. and then they branch off into different styles. But some of these, you see what their hallmarks are, right? Like this dude here, Spitzweg, you got these window paintings that he keeps doing where he has these really strong diagonal shadows, and then he frames the subject in that light. And so it's interesting, to throw a prompt at Midjourney and then name an artist like this and just see if it does that. Is it going to give me this diagonal composition with, these delineated shapes, where the subject is neatly placed in that area. One that I use a lot is Jean-Léon Jerome. Controversial as his, a lot of his subject matter is. He does these framing techniques. He'll have a doorway, and then he'll have a subject kind of at the edge of the doorway, and your eye just follows the edge down to their face, right? And everything's just kind of in that frame. He's doing it here, brings that down. That's, the purpose of the flag is to bring it down. Here you got these arches that bring you into the characters. Even here, you've got this shape, but look at that. You got the doorway that brings you down to that person. So I use him a lot because he's has a huge body of work that consistently utilizes these techniques and motifs. And then the other thing that I like about his work is that he just really strongly delineates color shapes. And so to kind of push Midjourney in that direction, to tell it this is what I want, it's nice to have a frame of reference for an artist who has a huge body of work where he's been doing that all along. So anyway, this was really helpful. So what I end up using is I use the Jean-Léon Jerome quite a bit, and then I use Hiroshi Yoshida quite a bit. And then I think the most difficult part is trying to delineate with Midjourney what your subject is and what the motif is, the difference between the subject and the motif. So like for the tanks, they're all tanks, but like I don't really think of them that way. I think of them as characters, and then I want to bring in these other elements that kind of make humorous mashups. And so, I might do things like for example, I did a whole string on bowling ball shaped tanks in Midjourney. I did a string on kitchen appliance, and then tank motifs. What I found tends to help is if you can get a little bit specific about which tanks you're talking about. So, well, I guess there's two branches there. One, if you just say, I want to see like an M1 Abrams, whatever, and it'll find images of an M1 Abrams to reference. But then what you'll probably get back is an M1 Abrams, or something that looks like a monstrosity of it. So sometimes a broader prompt like army tanks. I mean, I just feel like such a child writing army tanks, in there. But it's so broad, and it's also perhaps how the algorithm, or how it's trained, how the neural net is trained, that it may pick up a lot of the kind of imagery that I want that is hashtagged or has the metadata of army tanks, because that's perhaps a more popular term, or just easier, to throw in rather than to look up the actual tank model. So sometimes I'll do that if the direct prompts aren't working very well. But for direct prompts, I usually pick tanks that I think have nice, iconic shape language and interesting, like greeble parts, So I'll do like the T-35, or sometimes I'll do M1 Abrams or whatever. But actually, some of the more successful ones that I like, and actually I'll pull them up here. I'm going to pull this to the other screen, but I'll pull up some of the tanks that I've done through Midjourney. Okay, so here's one. This is not quite as successful, but this is actually how I'll bring in all my Midjourney results. I'll take all of the thumbnails and I'll throw them here kind of in a lineage on the left, how they developed, like, you know, which ones were based off of which. It's kind of crude, they're not perfect. And then I'll do the upscales on the right. And these ones were based off of painters, you know, Jean-Léon Jerome. And I think you can actually kind of see that. Look at the color usage, very similar. The ones up here, I think I based off of, like, I think I did hard surface modeling on ArtStation. And that point of reference, you know, for me is I've done some work with games and stuff, and so that's the term we use, hard surface modeling, for for 3D models that are mechanical. And I don't remember what the prompt was here. It might have been like, it may have been something with a squid. I don't remember. Right, so one of the things I was going to say is that the more, yeah, here we go, some squid ones. Some of the more successful ones that I found are if you do things that are kind of adjacent to what you're looking for in terms of form. So, like, I've been doing farm equipment because the forms are different than tanks. You know, tanks all have to have a low profile, and I actually want these to be tall because then I can more easily turn them into characters. And I think they have a little more opportunity to make them kind of funny than if they're like, squat. Let's see, like this here. It's like, this is just kind of too much. I mean, it's starting to go a little bit vertical. But if they're too flat like this, I don't think I can really get the, like, the chubby body and the head kind of anthropomorphization that I'm looking for. And so then I'll put in prompts like farm equipment, maybe some animals like this. I'm almost sure I put a zebra in there. This one was elephant, squid. I've done like giraffe and gorilla. Some of them, they get too literal, and that's why I really don't care for the newer rendering model that it has in the I guess they're calling it beta or whatever, but that'll change. But people really like that one because it's so literal in its rendering. Like, you throw in somebody's name and on a prompt, and it looks like that person. Which I think in and of itself is kind of disappointing and dangerous. Like, as an artist and a designer, you want to, like, use this as a tool, and just to see it used as like a meme generator or something, it's kind of I mean, I get it, I understand why people would want that, but it's not what I want out of it. But anyway, so because it's so literal, it's much harder to get it to take these different concepts and throw them together and give you some, like, weird abstract thing that then you can go ahead and develop on your own. I'll see if I can pull up another one here that's a little closer to what I was talking about. I'm gonna catch up on the chat as well. Nice reference board and great artists also. That's what really draws me to your work. In the first place, I felt that tanks had more of a chubby puppy type of appeal that was cute. and the yellow ones in your midjourney video. I also checked out your website and love the other cute tanks in your personal work. Thanks. Yeah, the aim has always been to make them fun. Funny if possible. Sometimes I think you can hit like, oh, this is fun without being like, oh, that's, makes me giggle or something, but the earliest versions of Fantastic Tanks were, based off of like, a baby's head, or the shape of a watermelon, or the shape of a telephone, like an old rotary phone. So part of it was like, this will it tank idea, like, can I take one concept and then like turn it into a war machine, and often that ended up being pretty funny. Okay, so then this tree, this one I did a little better job kind of showing like the actual flow of the designs, and you can see it's like there's just so many iterations. Once you actually lay it out, then you go, man, I don't know if this is any faster than just doing it myself. But this one I made an image in order to try to coax it to do what I wanted. And let me see if I can find that. Again, this is this is a test. I have no idea if this is. Here we go. I had no idea whether or not this would go anywhere, but I thought, what I want to do is I want to make the darkest value in the center. And one of the things that was really bothering me is that a lot of the designs I would get, they'd be kind of interesting, but I'd get like half a tank, or like just they'd be popping out, of the side of the screen. And so I wanted to really coax it to put the subject in the center. And you can do some prompting for that, but then I don't know how much the prompts get crossed with, like, your compositional requests get crossed with the content request. So anyway, I put this in the center, gave it a cast shadow, just gave a thick and thin, simple shaped background but low contrast, and blurred it out. The motion blur, I don't know if it will take anything from that, but if it did, it wouldn't hurt. And then I tried to make it really tall compositionally, because one of the things I'm really fighting is that I don't want these tanks that actually follow the function and form that a tank would follow of being low profile. I'm trying to force it to give me results that are kind of absurd in design. And so anyway, so some of the first ones I got were these ones here. And let's see if so this was giving it far too much image weight, and then I started lowering the weights, and then started getting some results that I liked. This isn't particularly close to that other image, but it's doing three things that I like. It's got the tank is the darkest and it's in the center, so I get the full form with the cast shadow. It's got that soft background, and then even just this little bit here, that little kind of yin and yang of like there's light here and then there's a little bit of light there. That's something that I was really looking for, and I think it helps to like instantly see what the form is. You know that's a treaded vehicle and it's got that kind of shape. And then I just wanted to kind of tree off of that and try to get it to grow taller. And so that's kind of what's happening here. These keep spinning off. If I get a taller design, I would do variations off of that until we're getting like up to here. And this is something more of closer to what I'm interested in. Now, I was talking with one of the other guys on the Fantastic Tanks crew, and I think the main thing that midjourney is missing with these, like, I think it's fun to explore, and it's like I'm enjoying it, I'm enjoying the process. I'm getting some ideas. I'm also like exploring it as a tool to see what its potential is, and really hopeful that it can produce, something, or can work in a pipeline. But the thing that it's really missing for us is this might start to be like an interesting shape and kind of funny, and that's a good start. But it's not a character yet, and so I think it's on us to kind of look at it and think, what could this be? Could this like turn into a mosquito, or could this turn into a duck or something? Maybe an elephant. Give it like kind of little flappy looking ears or whatever, and then you've got something. So as a tool, I think it's been helpful in that regard. I've used it for a couple other methods that I'm exploring. I won't go into it too much, but just generating textures and generating background type things. We've been, just kind of having it make just like make up blueprints of nothing. It's just like random greeble parts, but like they're kind of cool as like kind of stock material that you can plug into things. So yeah, I think it's been cool to explore. At some point, I actually want to like write out my thoughts on it and do like a flow chart or something of like the different things that I'm hoping to test and see if I can get out of it. Because my goal has never been that it would just completely render an image for me. Using it as like almost like a kit bashing tool has been kind of cool. Like just to throw prompts in there to get like greeble mechanical parts and interesting forms, and then I'll throw those on a artboard like that, and then just make selections and copy and cut and paste and like collage them together and then paint over that, and that seems to work pretty well. Though I don't know that I'm saving any time. It's just maybe it allows me to explore in different directions and in a different way than I normally would. Anyway, I'm monologuing, so I'm gonna check on your response there. The new beta test P is amazing for faces and improves them 1,000%, but it can give less essence to other subject matter. I agree. I do the same with fruit. One of my main poster clients let me go surreal every week and do whatever I want, but it has to have fruit in it every time. It's nice. So I have tried to fruitize everything. Yeah, that sounds like fun. Yeah, I see the benefit of beta or the test P. I think that for architecture, it's great. For likenesses, like I don't like that. I like that you can create believable things, or like some photoreal things. Like vehicles. It's pretty cool that it can do that. There are some times where you just want it to do the real thing and not like some abstract interpretation on a thing. And so, I get that. Yeah. I'm trying to think. There was something else that I was thinking recently that it would be really useful for. So architecture was the main one. People, of course. Believable faces and stuff. I don't like the I don't know if I would call it uncanny valley. It's more like deep fake kind of thing. The fact that it's not a real person, we're just kind of inventing it. That bothers me a little bit. But I guess at the same time, I'm a concept artist who, that's what I do. It's just the only difference is a machine is doing it instead of me. We invent invent people characters all the time. I think it's just the I think it's the fact that it's like you see this thing and it looks real, but it's just like kind of an aggregate of imagery from the net. I don't know. Maybe I'm just antiquated, old-fashioned. I'm trying to think what was the other application that I thought it would be great for. I said architecture, interior design type stuff. Obviously that's adjacent to architecture, but I was doing a exploration a little while ago where I wanted it to just give me some ideas for like a layout for a business that someone's putting together. And it would, it'd be like an on-site location. It had a aviation theme to it, and so I thought, well, that'd be kind of cool just to like throw in some prompts and just see like, an aviation themed, lounge or something like that. And I was not thrilled with the results. That was on version 3, and so I could see like a tool that could actually, successfully, reliably give that to you. That would be pretty handy. I think it all comes down to the application of the consumer, really. Like, I think we all just want something different, or like see the different potential for it, and anything that stands in the way, as an obstacle to accomplishing that, gets frustrating. And if one person's looking for surrealism and interesting abstract compositions, and the other person's looking for just a straight up rendering of something, then they're going to need different tools. Coming back to the chat. And give you an amazing resource if you like. Someone has put together a Wikipedia style list of every main artist in history and has done examples of how Midjourney executed them. Yeah, I would definitely check that out. I may have seen something similar, but if you drop the link, that would be awesome. Tells you if the artist is in the AI code or not. Yeah. That would be helpful, because there are times where I'm like, I've had it like, this is a conceited thing or whatever, but like I put my name in there to see like, will it go to my ArtStation or my website, and can it draw any conclusions from my body of work? I don't think it works that way. I think it's trained on the neural net is trained, and then we get results based on that. I don't think it's constantly scrubbing the web or anything. But I thought I'd give it a try anyway. It has hundreds upon hundreds of artists with thumbnails of how the AI does their style, all in one Excel sheet. Yeah, that'd be awesome. I think embracing it and using it as a tool to assist is okay, like I was saying earlier, as long as it is just assists the artist in their true expression and doesn't replace it. That's all. Yeah, I think. I've got mixed feelings on that. I think tools will always come whether you want them to or not. Like tools here. Are we going to figure out how to utilize it? I don't want to say that it's not worth fighting it or something like that. If it's, there are some things that truly are not great. They're innovative, but they bring with them their own problems. So the technology is here, whether we like it or not, and so I think we may as well explore it and figure out how we can use it if we want to use it. Where the technology can go. I think it's a really important thing to try to learn that. However, some innovations have not been good. Like factory farming or something. It's like, yeah, it's great that we can feed a ton of people. Now we've got new problems to deal with, right? Or GMO foods and nuclear energy. It's like these are all things that, like, technology's here. We see its benefits. The benefits, I think, are obvious. But then it presents its own new kind of problem sets to deal with. And so, like 3D printing, for example, that's one that I have basically embraced. I won't say that I don't think that it's like, I don't think it's the most amazing thing ever. I think it's pretty awesome, and I'm glad the technology exists. I think it's really helpful to execute on ideas. I don't think it's the best way to execute on a lot of three-dimensional production. I think it has its strengths in prototyping and rapid testing, and in certain forms it's easier to accomplish forms that have pass-throughs and underhangs and that sort of thing that might be more difficult to cast, or something that would be difficult to build without a lot of support. You can kind of get away with suspending gravity for a while you're designing it on the computer, and then you figure out how to support it in the manufacturing process on the printer. It has a different set of solutions, solves different problems, but it doesn't solve every problem. And so, with AI art, and I'm kind of reluctant to call it AI art. It's like, I don't know. Maybe that's a whole other thing, but it seems to me that what we call AI is not necessarily an artificial intelligence. It's more a massive library and associations. I don't know. I could be wrong about that. What do I know? I'm an artist. But anyway, so all that to say that, like, okay, 3D printing changed the game for a lot of people. If you were a specialist, I had a friend who had mentioned that he knew artists that made custom rings. And 3D printing put a lot of those guys out of business because that was no longer a necessary skill to get the results that you wanted. And so in that respect, like, I'm looking at AI art, and I'm thinking, yeah, this actually will upset the industry a little bit, and that's. I don't want to sound callous to it. It's just like it was just kind of inevitable. If 3D printing put a lot of specialists out of work, then midjourney is going to put a lot of people out of work. And I don't know exactly like how people will, or how artists will adjust to that. For example, a lot of the stuff that I'm seeing out of midjourney could easily be an album cover. So that's like that's a job that someone could do right out of school. Generally, you could be a more advanced artist and still be doing that sort of thing. And I don't mind that kind of work. It's just like it's not a big deal. It's kind of fun, But it's at an entry level where typically, students and young artists can get in on that and make their first break on like a little bit of album art. Like it's legitimate. It's a product that's going to be produced and put out in the world, and people are going to see it. And generally, you're working with other artists, musicians who may be in the same kind of position as you are. So you may be more willing to cut them a break or whatever. So anyway, I see that as like that's an area where I think tools like midjourney, if they're at that price point, are just gonna completely eradicate that market. You'll just like throw in some prompts for apocalyptic, whatever's cool in that genre. You've got it at your fingertips. I'm going to catch up on the chat. I mean, I've got more to say on that, but I don't want to just monologue. I don't mind monologuing, but I don't want to be rude. Let's see what you've got to say. Oh, that's funny. You put my name in to try to get tanks. Well, I don't want to be tank guy, but maybe that'll be. Maybe I am. Yeah, just have to own it. Background mock-up here of the concept presentation. If I have multiple posters to get done in a day, I don't mind them. Algorithmic art would be a more apt term, in my opinion. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's so I think we do need to embrace the fact that things are changing, and just be okay with that. Things are going to change, right? Where I think we could really go wrong is that we're utilizing. Okay, this is maybe more philosophical, but I think we are utilizing computer technology and primarily the aggregation of information to save us time in learning new things, right? I mean, like today my internet was out and I've been learning a new piece of software. And so I'm like, well, okay, instead of just Googling and searching on YouTube to find the answer, I'm going to have to look through the menus and just try things and see what happens. And it turns out it was fine. But I think we do that with a lot of things. Like, my wife and I have been talking about getting chickens. And so we're like, okay, well, I'll Google it, what do chickens need? And it's like I grew up raising chickens. Like I have a history of understanding with that, and yet I'm just so used to like I don't need to think about it. When I go to do it, I'll just Google it, and that'll give me the information that I need. And something like art is, it is such a massive pursuit. It like takes so much of your life to get, I mean, on one hand to develop the skill, and then it seems like after the skill comes the understanding, the why. It's like we do it partly, like we just have to make, we have to create things. And I don't want that to come off as like artists are different, they're special people or whatever. It's like, I think it's in human nature that it's better to build things than to just be a consumer of things. We really like when our fingerprints are on a project, or when we can lay claim to, like, yeah, I did that. I made that thing. And I don't think that's trivial. And I think if we are foolish about this AI thing, in that we don't continue to explore new ideas and push students on the fundamentals and all that sort of thing, I think we'll be in trouble. I think there is a corollary in in 3D design. There's a lot of tools that'll do the work for you. Like, you don't need to know as much as you used to. The bar to entry is lower, and that actually I don't think is a bad thing. For example, I was thinking today about, like, if I were drawing mushrooms in Photoshop. I'll just do this. Okay, so if I were drawing it analog, I would like do this shape, and then I would think, okay, here's the center, and so I'd kind of work that out, maybe make it irregular, to think about what I'm doing before I do it, especially if this were pencil, because the immediacy of the mark. Okay, but on the underside of this, let's say this comes down like that, right? On the underside of this, I'd have to think about, okay, the gills are radiating, from this point. And the more in line with my view they are, the wider they need to be, and the the more horizontal they're going to be, kind of closer together, right? And so, like, I have to pay attention to what I'm doing, and then plan it out. If I were to do this in Photoshop, let me just shade this a little bit for us all, so we can see it more clearly. Something like that. Now, if I were just to do it the Photoshop way, I would just, start from the center like this. And then I would grab that and then manipulate it. Put it in perspective. I wouldn't have to think about perspective. Just do it here. And then I'd probably duplicate that. And I'll bring in another one. Maybe rotate that so it's not exactly the same. Do the perspective on this one. And I don't know if this is any faster, but my perception is that perspective drawing is just too hard, so I don't want to do it. Right? And then I would, build out the stem here and then paint that out like that, right? So I think there's a benefit to using different approaches. You know, just to get your brain to think about the design in a different way is a good thing, I think. But I also understand my propensity to be lazy. And I guess, you know, when I think about it, it's like I don't have a microwave for that reason. Because, yes, I could microwave my food every day, but that's not how I want my food to be. And I don't want to teach myself to be lazy with everything, you know? And I don't know, maybe that makes me a weirdo or something, but I think when it comes to our tools, like some of these tools are so powerful and it's awesome. And just the amount that you can accomplish in the time that you can accomplish it, I'm not scoffing at that at all. But I could scoff at myself if my reliance on that tool was such a crutch, you know, that that I couldn't become like the artist that I want to be. You know, the whole point of doing this, I wouldn't say that it's necessarily like self-fulfillment or self-actualization or something like that. But I mean, I do think that there is an aim. Every artist has an aim, and they're not there yet. And in fact, I don't think many of the artists that we like follow, it's like, I don't know, it's like we're not really jealous of them. We're not really jealous of Midjourney. We're like just looking at what we know we'd like to be and do, and the fact that we have more work to get there. You know, I don't know. Speaking purely from my own feelings on that, but I would tend to think that Midjourney will end up being either a meme generator, you know, that people utilize to, like, they got a funny idea and they just want to, you know, throw something together. Or it could develop into kind of an artist of its own. And I know, you know, people avoid using that term, but like, it has its hallmarks. It does what it does. You know, it's if it stays in that stage of development, you'll be able to recognize a Midjourney result, and you may like that, and so you may like it as, you know, whether it's just a tool. It's like saying, well, I like Photoshop art, or I like ZBrush models, or whatever. I don't know. It's perhaps too simplistic of a way of looking at it. But I think what comes next is where things will get more intense. You know, whatever's coming after this current wave is where I think we'll be having more existential questions as creators. Okay, I have monologued far too long. Looking at the chat, I don't think art as a skill will ever be in danger like Blockbuster Video Store was when Netflix came out. It's the human genome to want to create that will never leave it, and I think it will only evolve as time goes on to adapt, and have AI as an option to play with alongside their true artistic expression, if they are that way inclined in the first place. Just my opinion. Good night. Do you know of any good references to study depth of field values? Well, depth of field is not necessarily the same as values. If you're thinking, how do I use values to create depth? I mean, you could look at like atmospheric. That would be called atmospheric perspective. Uh, if you search for depth of field, you would probably end up getting more like photography um, tutorials or something. Good references for it. Yeah, well, if you look up atmospheric perspective, you'll probably find something. Like foggy scenes would be great reference for that. Or like evening night scenes would be good reference for that. Once the sun has gone down, because then as things get farther away from you, they kind of just flatten out. Just these kind of thumbnail exercises that I'm doing, generally that's how you'd approach them, though that's not exactly how I'm approaching it here right now. But you think something that's in the foreground, if you're putting your like darkest darks in the foreground, then they're going to lighten as they go farther away. And that would typically be a result of just moisture in the air, and sunlight is hitting that moisture, and so the greater volume of air is between you and the subject, the kind of lighter the shadows are going to be. Though the lights don't really tend to change, right? So like the particles in the air being hit by light isn't going to darken the light that's in the distance. It's just going to lighten the shadows. So yeah, I would say like atmospheric perspective, volumetric shadow or volumetric fog is another thing you could look up. But that result would probably give you more like CG stuff. Yeah, that's probably adequate for finding references on those things. I don't know of any, books or something like that. Speaking of which, what we could do here, we could go set this layer to lighter color, and then we just pick maybe that lighter color in the background, and we just start pushing this over these. So it's not going to make our brights, it's not going to affect our brights at all. We're just kind of pushing our darker colors lighter. It's almost as if you were looking at this image and thinking, you know what this image could really use? Some atmospheric perspective. And now it's bothering me that I can't remember the other application for more photorealistic results. I know I was thinking of something the other day that I thought, man, actually that would be really useful for that. But now I can't think of it. And as soon as I drop this live stream, I'm going to think of it. So there we go. Atmospheric perspective, like that. Just push things farther back. It is a balance, though. You know, in this case, I'm looking at this and thinking, I get more contrast by doing this. And so it kind of pushes you between, like, am I looking at these people here or am I looking at that? And it, you know, creates a hierarchy. We could push it, you know, one direction or another to maybe make these more prominent, more important, or maybe make the city more important. In terms of depth, yeah, that pushes everything back. And maybe, I guess, even taking this and lowering all of that in the scene could also make it look farther back. I think the repetition of these things right here is doing some work. However, it's not, let me do this. It's not diminishing. Like, these aren't that much farther than those. So I think if we took this and moved it, you know, closer like that, then we're maybe even make it smaller, flatter. Maybe we'll take some of this light, just make these little small strips there. So yeah, you know, you can add more space and distance there, but you have to balance it with your compositional choices. So where was I here? So I'm kind of tempted to like go halfsies on that now that we've already painted over it, you know, to match it. It's funny. A lot of talking tonight. You got me going on midjourney. I will say, from the art director's perspective, you know, when we were playing with these for Fantastic Tanks, like, the fact that you're spending almost nothing and maybe 30 seconds of wait time to get a result on an idea, when you know, the prompt craft, you know, it's like, how do I get the right prompt that'll give me the results that I'm looking for? I was like, well, that's the same issue in art directing. You know, you've got to figure out, like, how do I explain what I need without just doing it myself? You know, so that I can leverage the utility of having other artists and other kind of creative, other creative input on the project. So you'd be doing those kind of prompts anyway, perhaps to a different degree. I mean, I do think there are, like, cultural references that neural networks are going to have a really hard time figuring out, you know, interpreting. So one example that I gave and I'd be interested to see if someone actually could come up with good results from this. I haven't been able to. Was that if you think of Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat, Sega Genesis, Baby Yoda versus Dave Chappelle. Okay, I think our generation, at least, the generation that had access to any of that stuff, has a pretty clear idea in their mind of what that looks like. The Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat on the Sega Genesis, it gives you the perspective of the view, the setup, the composition. Baby Yoda and Dave Chappelle, I think you see in your head even kind of their stances or whatever. I think Baby Yoda would be in his little floaty device thing. Midjourney just cannot do that. I think it's just too many cultural references that have all these associations with them that we pick up on that perhaps just aren't in the imagery or in the metadata or however it's trained. The results I get are just like horrid. They're just terrible. Almost like pleasantly terrible. Like it makes me feel relevant. Anyway, so I use that as an example of something that you can get some pretty decent cultural references, prompts that people understand, that it's really difficult to get a machine to understand. Or again, I'm reluctant to call it a machine. It's a software of a neural network, associations of a huge library. Yeah, maybe that's a better way of looking at it. It's like asking a visual librarian to give you some recommendations and give you a reading list. And then they actually read it for you and just give you the spark notes. Checking back at the chat. Thanks for the tip on research and study. Work is getting really cool. I have to go. It's 2 a.m. Yep. Have a good night, and hopefully that is helpful. I have to get back to designing mate. It was really cool to chat with you. Thanks for your time. I'll try to stop by if I ever work out and find art streams in the future. Yeah, it's been a good chat, and I appreciate you adding your thoughts and making this interesting at all. I was kind of just noodling around with these things for a little bit. I think you brought the topic to discuss. And good luck with your Midjourney explorations. I think there's cool stuff ahead. I think I perhaps was a little bit more on the negative side tonight, though I do think it's a pretty exciting tool, and it'll be cool to see where it goes. I think it's probably about time for me to turn in as well. So it's 1 a.m. here, and I don't see us really finishing a color painting tonight. There have been nights where I'll go, for 5 hours or whatever, but I think I'm kind of more or less satisfied with having done some kind of fun thumbnails that I can revisit another time. I will, however, simplify this just a little bit. And I might just set this to darker color or darken, because I nuked a lot of the detail. I mean, I know it's dumb, but I was kind of enjoying noodling with some of that over there in the top right corner of that thumbnail. And I think it'd be cool to keep some of that. So let's do darker color. Darker or normal? Darker color. There we go. And then we'll just smooth some of these out just a little bit more. It's kind of tempting to like start layering this. Maybe flatten this out a little bit here. There aren't too many areas of rest in this. So that is something to consider. Do I want to Smooth that out. Maybe smooth this out here. I think it could use a bit of darker color in here if I zoom out. I think if we just increase the shape of that shadow. I don't know if we want that second stroke, but the first one at least. Yeah. Okay. Not sure really where I want to go from here, so I think I will just leave it at this. Interesting conversation tonight. We got a bunch of thumbnails done, and obviously we took them quite a bit further than just thumbnails. But overall, it's a pretty chill evening of just exploring some ideas, keeping it grayscale, and noodling with interesting shapes and value, trade-offs. So, all right. Thank you for joining tonight. Thank you for the conversation, and hopefully, as always, you had your own projects that you were working on and getting somewhere with those. And should be back here next week, roughly around 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And yeah, that's it for tonight. So thank you for joining, and have a good night.